Hello everybody and welcome to the Cedar Bay webinar series for 2021. This is the first webinar in our Art of the Possible series, and we're beginning with a webinar based on Aurena, which is the new user interface that's been brought out by IFS very recently. So I'm joined today, my name is Jo Russell, I'm the Sales Manager of Cedar Bay. I am joined by Mish Akleker. She's one of our more experienced consultants, and she's going to be providing you with most of the webinar. So before we get going, just a couple of housekeeping points to mention. The first one of those is there will be some interactive element within this webinar, in addition to the Q&A at the end, where we've also got a couple of questions that we're going to use as a poll, so that we'll be asking a couple of questions throughout the webinar just to get a little bit of feedback from yourselves. You're all on mute at the moment, but we will be obviously enabling the question to come via the webinar question control panel on the right of your screen. So if you've got a question at all, anything comes up, then just put that question in the question element and we'll get to it at the appropriate point at the end of the webinar. This webinar is going to actually be recorded as well. So if anybody misses it, or there's anybody that you know from your company that's not on the webinar right now, not able to attend, then we will be putting the webinar into our website as soon as we finish this, within the next few hours. So you're very welcome to have a look at that. And also on the website is a lot of information about future webinars. And we would advise you to keep an eye on our website from time to time, because there's a lot more webinars that are going to follow this one. Okay, if we move on to the next page, Mish, please. So this is the agenda of the day. First of all, a bit of an introduction to Aurena. This is all about how to get the best of the product, just a little bit of a highlight of what Aurena is and what it does. Then going into a little bit of the structure and the layout of how it's presented. And for those of you who are currently using IFS, you'll see quite a difference from the EE interface to Aurena interface. So just a few changes for you to become aware of. Then we'll cover a few of the different screens, the detail screens and view screens, and a few other elements that you'll pick up in terms of that structure. Then move into navigational elements and workflows. Workflows is much improved from previous versions of IFS. There's a lot of aid there for the user to really enable a company to ensure that the appropriate processes are followed in the right sequence, and you can see that either in a larger process or a much more detailed process. And then finally, a few of the additional elements that just make life that little bit easier for the user. Obviously, throughout the whole of the more recent versions of IFS, there are a considerable number of lobbies available, so Mish will show you the odd one of those as she goes through. Okay, enough of me. Mish, if I could hand over to you, please.
All right, thank you so much, Jo, for that wonderful introduction. Can I just make sure that you can hear me, Jo, from that side?
Yes, that's fine. We can hear, we can see everything. Thanks.
All right, brilliant. Thank you. All right, so I'm really pleased to be here today delivering a bit of an insight into the world of Aurena. Now, as Jo mentioned earlier, my name is Mish Akleker, but everyone calls me Mish. I'm one of the finance consultants here. So let's get started. IFS Aurena is an intuitive, effective, and state-of-the-art browser-based user experience for the IFS applications. Now, one of the key words I mentioned is browser-based, and this is really important because the application opens and is fully functional from any type of browser. For example, if you wanted to use Google Chrome or if you wanted to use Microsoft Edge. And for those of you who are Apple fans, they also support Safari. Aurena allows you to conduct those business processes with efficient workflows, giving you that option to make them personal, a little bit more personal to your business. Now, in a typical consumer application, there are a couple of key principles, and you can see that from this example from hotels.com. Now, you can take this example with hotels.com and also apply it with Skyscanner, any of the websites that you've been on that's consumer facing. And you can see that some of the features that they've got on those websites is that rather than asking the user to search for exactly what they want up front, a longer list is presented that's then easily filtered by things like attributes such as price or star ratings in this example. Additionally, on some of the consumer websites, you can also see that each entry is in a list format and it's presented in a very rich information view where it's got images where applicable. You can see some description, it's highlighted, and it's got key sort of highlights. For example, over here, you've got a rating that's given over here. Now, you've also got things like important information that's highlighted, and the attention is always drawn to those key actions. In a similar way, IFS has gone and developed Arena to be very responsive and intuitive to a user's roles, actions, and commands. As an example, we've got the option to filter down and favorite some of our records in IFS. We've got the option to see some of those key information. They get highlighted for us. We've also got the option of viewing information in the sense that you can see different color codes and you can see graphical representations. And so IFS has done that in a way to improve the user interactivity within IFS. Now, one thing to note about IFS is when you're using multiple browsers and devices, Arena has a very responsive layout. And this means that there are 4 different types of layouts containing 6, 16, 24, and 32 slots, which adjust according to the device that you're using. So whether you're using it horizontally or vertically, that then adjusts to fit your device. And what I've done is I've put up a couple of pictures to show you how this looks on some of our other devices. Now, as you can see, you're able to use it on an iPad, a smartphone, a PC. It doesn't only make it very convenient, but it also allows you to have a lot of flexibility. For example, you may need to access IFS while you're on a shop floor or when you're traveling and you need to record things like time and expenses. So IFS has that flexibility in providing multiple different devices for you to be able to do that. So that is just to give you a very brief introduction to Arena, but what I really want to do is I want to show you Arena in a live demo. So I'm going to move on to go into the live environment, but before we do that, we're just going to quickly go into a poll question. I'm going to hand it back to Joe.
Thanks, Mish. So this is the first question that we'd like to ask you, just to give us a little bit of an idea of how much Arena knowledge we've got out there. So if you could just select one of these questions, just give us a quick answer, that will be useful. I'll just give you a few minutes. I think there's almost 50 of you on the call, so I'll give you a second or two just to respond to that. Okay, Mish, I think we're just about got all the answers in. Thank you. Appreciate that, everybody.
Thank you so much. So from the answers, I can actually see that quite a few of you are considering the use of Arena, and there's a few of you who've already decided to use Arena. So this will really give you an insight into what is coming up, what features are available, and start getting you thinking about what you really want to use within the application as well. So I'm going to head over to the Arena application. So first and foremost, when you log into Arena, the first thing you're going to see a lobby. And essentially what a lobby is a dashboard of information. And that dashboard of information is something that a user can go and view. It contains information and data that a user can go into, interact with. It can be personalized. It can be per department, function, workflow, overview. However, really, it needs to be set up. Lobbies are an excellent tool and driver of carrying key information, key tasks, viewing that information that you might need to analyze or report on, and keeping up to date with things like orders and transactions or any authorizations that need to take place. It's very interactive and it updates itself depending on how often your business decides it wants to be updated. So you might have a lobby that gets updated, every couple of seconds, every couple of minutes, every day. And what that does, it provides you real-time information of what's happening. If someone goes and authorizes something, you should be able to see that appear on your lobby. Now, lobbies are also very global. And what that means is that you can work in multiple companies and you can still access and view that information across all the different companies. And that's done through a really nice filter function, which is just over here. And this is just an example. You can go and you can put in the company, you can put in a site, and you can filter down the information that you want to see within a lobby. Now, IFS has pre-existing lobbies that are configured to specific functions. However, businesses might decide, okay, you want to configure the same lobbies, or you might even want to create your own to suit your own sort of functional flow. Lobbies provide you with that flexibility and that efficiency really to find out, okay, what am I doing? What are my tasks for today? So this is an example of a lobby in front of you over here. It's a financial manager lobby, but in the same sense, you've got multiple different lobbies available. You've got HR lobbies available. You have manufacturing lobbies, shop floor reporting lobbies available, project management lobbies available. There are several lobbies to choose from. Several lobbies you can configure your own processes based on as well. Now, I'm going to go a little bit now into the structure and layout of the screen. And it's really important. I want to highlight this because each sort of section within IFS has its own purpose. Now, in front of us, we can see our main screen, which has got our lobby in it. This big screen over here where you can see my mouse running over, that screen changes depending on what you're doing in IFS. If you're over there viewing information and you're on your home page, you might see a lobby. If you're going and entering a transaction, you might need to go into a different screen, a more detailed screen. And if you're going and viewing records of information, it might be that you need to go to an overview screen. So there are different types of screens that are available in IFS for you to use depending on what you're going. The thing that does remain constant in IFS is the sidebar and the top pane. So you can see that over here. So if I just minimize that for a second. So this top pane over there, which is purple, and this bar over here is the two things that does remain constant throughout whatever page you're on, whatever transaction you're doing, that will remain. Each section having its own purpose. We'll start at the top bar just to give you a quick idea of what each section sort of does. The top bar allows you to sort of navigate back and forth between pages, go to your main home page, and allows you to conduct some key higher level settings, so to speak. So for example, it allows you to open up your navigator where you can look at all the different modules available within IFS, and you can kind of drill down into them if you needed to go that way. You can also minimize that further. You can also go to your home page. So for example, if I was on another page, so if I came into, one second, let me just go into this page. So if I came into one over here, for example, and I go to a different page, if I click on my home screen, what that will do is it will take me straight back to my lobby, which has been set up as my home screen. So if I click on that, it takes me back there. So that's quite useful in the sense that you might want to go straight back into your lobby. You might not have your lobby set up as a home screen, but we'll come to that in a sec. Now, you've also got something called a recent screens icon. Now, that recent screens icon allows you to look at the most recent screens that you've been on. It means that you don't have to go and navigate back to any other screen. You don't have to go and look at your history and try to find which screen you're on. And it's also quite visually representative because you can go and see all the information and you can see this is the balance screen that I've been on, or this is a shop order screen I've been on, and you can go and jump back and forth between the screens, which makes it really easy to jump between the different screens really. Now, one thing I quite like about this is if you are on a specific screen and you want to make that screen your homepage, you can do so. So at the moment, I've got my financial manager lobby as my homepage. I can come here and I can click on my supply invoice workflow as my homepage, and what that will do is it will go and apply that homepage to my user profile. Now, if we come across to the right-hand side, we can see there's a little message kind of icon over there. That allows you to have information messages, tells you what's happening in IFS. If you've gone and created an invoice, if you've gone and created a shop order, it will give you that information message saying you've gone and created this on so-and-so date. So that just provides you with that little bit of information. Now, if you come a little bit to the right side, you can see I've got applications owner here. Now, depending on your username, you will see your username over there. So if I was logged in as Michelle, I would be able to see Mish Akleker over there. And if I click on that, it allows me to go and set some things, as I mentioned, at a bit of a higher level. So I can come here and I can change my different themes, and you have got multiple themes. I'm not going to change it just here, but I will show it to you in a bit. You also have the option to go into things like online documentation. For example, if you click on this, you will take you straight to straight to another tab where you can see all the different documentation, all the different process flows and everything over there, which means it's very easy to access. You've also got access to your IFS portal or IFS website, and that means that you can go and put in your own website links. So remember that, because if you might want to put in your your own business intranet portal, you might want to put in your website, and you can go and put that over there. You've also got one thing called a navigator designer. Now, I quite like the navigator designer because if you've got a navigator and you've got all your different functional areas within the navigator, if you wanted to go and make that a little bit more personalized to your business, and say you wanted to make that, okay, you wanted to have certain, folders and certain pages within a section, you're able to go and move that around so that it's a little bit more personalized to what your department usually uses. So you're able to do that. So this top bar represents the navigation sort of side of things, where you go into one screen, go into another screen, do a little bit of high level things. Now, if we go onto the sidebar, this sidebar here is basically your navigation pane. You can come over here and open it up, and that will open up something called bookmarks. Now, bookmarks are really, really awesome, because what that means is you can go to any page in IFS, you can bookmark that page, and what that does is it creates a shortcut for you so that anything you click on here, it takes you straight into that screen. And that's really good, because if you click onto it, it means that you don't have to go and search for it. You don't have to go and look at your history. It means you don't even have to go into your recent screens. You can simply go and click on the icon. You can make it personalized. You can change the icon of it. You can change the name of it, and that won't affect anything in your navigator. It won't change anything over there. Okay, so you've got that option, and you've got your main navigator. And then finally, you've got your main page, which will change, of course, according to what you want. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a bit of navigation. So how do we get to a specific screen? Now, I think what I'll do is, before I show you the navigation of how to get to a specific screen, I'll show you the different types of screens. So in Aurena, we have got several different types of screens. We've got an overview screen, a detailed screen, we've got a workflow assistant screen, we've got the normal lobby screens, and we've got things like report generator and side pages which come up. So it's quite a lot of things happening around here, but it means that it also kind of goes and fulfills the function that you really need it to. So let's go on to the inventory part screen. This is an example of a detailed screen. Now, if I click on the inventory part screen, what I'm going to see is I'm going to be able to see some details behind a specific record of information. Then I'm going to be able to see something called a record selector, where I can go and view multiple different records on the side, and I can go and switch between the two records if I wanted to. That makes it a lot easier for me, because I would rather look at all the information and be able to switch between the two, rather than sort of come into the record selector here and hide the information. So I've got that visibility if I needed to, but if I didn't want it, I can just hide it. I've also got the main screen over here. Now, I absolutely like this main screen over here, because as you can see, I've minimized everything. Now, minimizing everything means I've got information in front of me in a very neat and cohesive way. I can view the information that I really need to see. I can hide the information that's not necessary, and I can also go and enter information, add information, and I've got lots of different functions, as you can see on the top here, to go and carry out specific functions within this if I needed to. I also have the option to go and edit that transaction if I needed to. And what I also like is I've got the option of adding attachments. So in a detail screen, you've got a lot of opportunity to go and put in information and only see the information that you really, really need to see. Now, as you can see, I've got the option to also attach attachments. And if I wanted to, I can go and click on view attachment, and then that will show me a picture, just a brief preview of what I really want to see. And I can close that again if I needed to. So you've got a lot of options in terms of what you can do on a detail screen. The other thing you can do is you can also favorite a transaction. If you remember right at the beginning, we talked about having that user friendliness. We talked about consumer-based applications. So IFS has also picked up a couple of things from there, where you can see we have the ability to favorite records, and we can go back to them whenever we need to. So we've got our own collection of favorites. So this is just to give you a very brief example of what an overview screen, what a detail screen looks like. Now, to show you what an overview screen looks like, if I go into the inventory parts record, that's just an example of what an overview screen is. Now, I'm going to click on search to populate all my data over here. And over here, I can see that it will populate with all the different records of the inventory parts that I've got. And what I like about this is that this is a very nice and simplified view, okay? Like you can see that it's quite simplified. And if you wanted to view more information, you can come into this little icon here and you can click on table view. What that does is it brings back all the information that's hidden, and it allows you to view the information now in a table kind of view that you would normally have, for those of you who want to see that. And then you can see there's so much more information over here on so many more different columns as well on the side. So that's quite useful in the sense that you've got different options on what you want to see. And if you wanted to see your favorites, you can click on your favorites, and that will bring through all your favorites. And as you can see, I've got 5 different records that I favorited over here. If you click on each one of them, you've got certain actions that you can do, and you can filter through with a very extensive search, because for those of you who may know IFS, you know that IFS's search functionality is absolutely fantastic, and they've brought that over to Arena. For those of you who don't know, you will definitely find out, because it's got so many functionality around how to search using conditional searches and putting in different ways of sort of searching. And for those of you who are a little bit more technical than myself, you can come into the advanced side and you can type in a lovely SQL query and get all your data like that if you needed to do that way. All right, so those are the 2 very main types of screens that you would need. Now, you do have other types of screens. For example, you've got something called a workflow screen as well that looks a little bit like this. And we'll come a little bit more into this a bit later, but just to show you, you have got a workflow assistant, and not just in finance, in lots and lots of other areas, you've got workflow assistants where it allows you to go through the process of creating your transactions, allows you to fill in the key information and go through that workflow. Now, we'll come back to that a little bit later. And so the final screen that we really need to talk about is the lobby side of things. So those are the 4 main types of screens that we would use in Arena. Now, with regards to how to navigate within Arena, there are so many different ways in which to navigate. And that's a real advantage, because that means that users can decide what they want, what their preference is really. Sometimes people will want to navigate using the navigator itself. So you want to dive down into each individual sort of functional area. You might say, okay, I want to go into sales, and I want to go into order, and I want to go into custom order. And that's how you reach your custom order. Sometimes you might want to go into the navigator and type it in and type a short form, and you don't necessarily have to type the entire word. You might type in a partial word, and you can still get to the same place. So those are the 2 ways to sort of navigate. You also have the option of, for example, if I go into a custom order, you can also have the option of navigating using something called a breadcrumb. Now, a breadcrumb is up here at the top, if you can see. Now, if I click on, say, for example, the order, it will show me every single item that is under that order folder, which means I can go and click on any of these. Now, the advantage of having this is that if you're working within a functional area and you need to switch between screens within that specific folder, you're able to do that without having to go to your shortcuts, without having to open up your navigator. You're able to do that. The other thing is that you can also use your shortcuts if you wanted to. So for example, say I wanted to access this screen I'm on right now using my shortcuts. What I can do is I can come to my little bookmark icon on the left side, and I can click on my bookmark icon, and you can see it's now asking me to add a new bookmark. I can choose from a number of different icons available. So I'm going to choose a little square button. And then I can choose a different color as well if I needed to. And you can see, again, you've got loads and loads of different varieties and options of different colors. And then if you wanted to, you can have a filter. So the filter function allows you to go and create shortcuts for specific searches, specific filters that you wanted to do. And you can even change this to COs if you needed to. And once I click on OK, what that does is it creates a little icon at the bottom over here, if you can see on the shortcuts, a little bookmark that allows you to go straight to that page if and when you need to. So as you can see, there's lots and lots of different ways to navigate around IFS, and it provides that user and it provides everyone with a bit more option and variety of how they want to do things. It also means that whilst you're working, it's more efficient. It means that you're not, limited to one way of really navigating. Okay, so before, like a few minutes ago, I think I mentioned something called a workflow assistant. So I'm going to go a little bit more into that workflow assistant. Now, IFS can drive workflows in different ways, and you have that flexibility to do that. So you've got the flexibility of having a workflow driven by the actual workflow assistance within IFS. You've got the option of then driving it also via a lobby. You can drive it via creating folders within the navigator. So you have options of how you really want to go and drive that workflow. So let me give you an example. If we go into our home screen, because we just went and created our supplier invoice workflow home screen here. If we go into our home screen, this is a home screen of a lobby of really a supplier invoice. Now, I'm not going to go into the functionality of it, but I'm just going to show you how you can use the lobby to drive that workflow. From here, I can go and I can create my lobby elements over here, and I can go and create the supplier invoice workflow. That takes me straight to a workflow assistant if I need to. And what I've done as well at the back over here is I've gone and created various elements. I've gone and created one element here, followed by an authorization element, followed by a viewing element. And what that means is that organizations have the ability to go and create elements, to go and create their own lobbies, to go and add their own workflows to the lobbies if needed, and even personalize the lobbies to specific workflows if required. So for example, over here, anything to do with an invoice, you can see at the bottom over here, you've got your supplier payments, your reliability, your task management. So you have those options. Now, the second way of doing it, which I think is one of the most ingenious ways, because in IFS, you can create a transaction through a workflow. Not only can you do that, but you can also go and personalize that workflow. So if I've got a workflow like this manual supplier invoice, or whether it's creating a customer order or a purchase order or any of the other sort, it takes me through these steps. In these steps, again, I can minimize all these different functions if I needed to. And if I wanted to, I have the option of going and adding an extra step if I wanted to, changing certain information. And it takes me through really the entire process of creating this, because it shows me that I've got certain mandatory fields that I can enter, and it shows me the information that is required from my side. So really speaking, that is how we do sort of workflows in IFS. If you wanted to, you can still go and create a normal supplier invoice on a normal screen, or a normal customer order on a normal screen. So you've got those options really in terms of how you want to go and do things. Okay, so the thing that gives you a really good idea of some of the things within IFS that we've covered. In IFS, you've got so many different options. In terms of how you drive workflows, in terms of how users actually use the system. The most flexibility that you could have is through these lobbies, especially because you can create lobbies specific to your department, specific to your functional areas, specific to your workflow. So what I'm going to do now is, now that you've seen the application and you've sort of gotten a bit of a flavor for it, I'm going to head back into the PowerPoint and just talk a little bit about some additional functionality that I wanted to show you, but we don't have the time to go too much into detail. But before we do that, we're going to jump into another quick poll question. There we go.
Okay, thanks, Mish. I'll just give you a couple of minutes break. So this is the second and final poll question for you all. If you wouldn't mind just popping into the screen here and answering this. Now, you can actually put more than one tick in a box here. So if I just give you a couple of minutes to do that, we would really appreciate your feedback. Okay, almost there, getting quite a lot of response at the moment. A lot of people using lobbies, which is good, and a lot of people using custom screens, which is also not a surprise. Just give it another couple of minutes. We've not got everybody covered yet. Okay, Mish, I think just about there, I think. If you'd like to carry on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I can see from the poll that there's quite a lot of you that use lobbies. There's quite a lot as well that use custom screens, and only a few of you use workflows and charts and graphs. But with Arena, I think that definitely will change, because workflows are definitely a big driver within Arena of some of the transactions. And some of the custom screens that you might be using might actually be custom workflows that you might end up having within Arena, which is actually a lot more neat, and it's a lot more process related. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go on to the next bit, which is to talk about some of the additional features within Arena that we've got. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is the page designer. Right at the end, I discussed a little bit about the workflow assistant, and we talked about how you can personalize that just a little bit. Now, this is an example of how you can actually do that. You can see that you can enable, disable, go and have a list of available pages, create things like duplicates. So you've got that little assistant where you can go and configure it to make it your own if you needed to do that. And what that does, it translates into what is in front of you. On the left-hand side, you can see the screen that we had before without the configuration side of things. But if you move on to the right-hand side of the image, you can see that that step name has now changed. So you can change the names of the actual headings. You can set certain fields into mandatory. And you can also add additional steps if you wanted an authorization step, if you wanted additional information, if you wanted someone to go and put in some notes, or maybe a credit note of things. So you can add different steps if you need to. And finally, you can add things like a field label if you need to. You can change the names of the labels, and you can also hide certain things, hide certain fields. So that's quite useful in a sense, because it doesn't restrict your workflow to IFS's workflow. It means that you can adapt IFS's workflow to your business process. And that's a really, really important thing. All right, so exporting to Excel, one of the big functions. Yes, you can export to Excel. You can also export to some of the other formats, such as Word, PDF. So you have got that ability if you wanted to. You can export by using this function called copy data link. And what that does, goes straight into Excel, so you're able to then see that information. There we go, you can see that information. Now, you can have that in any overview screen within IFS. Not just restricted to a few, within any screen. And also, if you wanted to export certain information on detailed screens, you're also able to do that. Might not come out as Excel, might come out as PDF, but you are able to do that if you need to. All right, so I'd also like to talk about IFS codes, and this is something that I think is very, very useful for users to understand the effects of the transactions they're doing, or the effects of any errors or mistakes they've kind of made. So an IFS code is essentially a dynamic message that comes up when it's giving you information about something, and it's kind of color coded as well, so you can see what that means. Green essentially means success. So as an example, if you've gone and confirmed something, if you've authorized something, it will show up and says, yes, it's confirmed, it's green, it's successful. You've got a red, which is an error message. Now, if you get red, it tells you the error message as well, and that's really useful, and it also highlights that you need to go and sort that issue out right there and then. You've got amber, which indicates a warning. So sometimes with amber, you are able to bypass it and sort of just carry on with the transaction. But IFS does tell you, oh, wait, hold on, just be aware of this before you move on, because it might come back later, or you might need to do something with it later. So it does tell you using an amber indicator. And then blue, one of my favorite ones, provides information to the user because it tells you what needs to be done, or it tells you key information that you and your user role really need to know. So you've got these codes to help you interact with IFS more than anything. So the IFS is not just a system that's sitting there, but it's also a system that works with you, that works with your business process. You've got things like enumeration drop-downs, which are really useful, as opposed to having to go into them and try and find the information using search. You can go and type it in to the enumeration drop-down, and that will restrict all the data brought back. So it will kind of just bring back what you've kind of searched for in that field, which is really useful because you're reducing your search in that way. You can have things like checkbox and boolean. So for example, I can come here and I can go and click on the checkbox, and it will untick things for me. If I want to have a boolean, I can have that where I can have yes or no, and I can go and change that if I need to. All right, so we've also got different themes. Now, I talked about different themes earlier, and I'd like to show them to you. So some of the different themes that we've got are ice, we've got dark. Now, dark theme is one of my favorite themes because I've got really terrible eyesight. So when I use my laptop, I always use the dark theme, and IFS has gone and created a dark theme, which is really useful because it means for those of you who are working long hours, who are looking at the screen constantly, it means it's a little bit less stressful on your eyes, and that's really useful. Also got high contrast, which really highlights things for you, so you can see everything quite clearly. It's bright, it's vibrant, it's there in front of you, and it definitely stands out. All right, so apart from the 3 themes that I've sort of covered here, you've also got the normal IFS theme, which is just normal purple. All right, now we go into charts. With regards to charts, the one thing I'd like to say is that IFS is full of diagrammatic representation of information. There's so much information that is represented via charts and diagrams, not just within lobbies, but also within functional areas. You can have things like graphical position structures, you can have organizational charts. There are lots of charts within HR, within finance, within some of the supply chain modules. So you'll be able to see that. And what's good about that is you can not only keep the charts, you can export the charts out, you can import the charts in. You can use these charts in your day-to-day presentations, in your day-to-day analysis. That's really important. It means you're not taking information out of IFS, putting it into Excel, creating a chart like that. You've got your charts in front of you. And that's a really big win for me. These are examples of some of the other charts that you have, and as you can see, you don't only have charts available to you in when you're working on your PC, but you've got charts available to you when you're working on your iPad, on your mobile phone, and you can see these charts. And if you turn it around, it will change views accordingly. Also have not just charts, you've got spidergrams, you've got state gauges, you've got lots of different types of elements that is not restricted to bar graphs or charts, but also things like pie charts or donuts. You've got options in terms of how you want to see that information. Here's another example of information being represented. This is an example of a box matrix. So you're able to go and do things like comparisons, and you're able to go and do things like, looking at your performances, your summary, and able to compare different things within IFS. This ranks it according to the information you've put in IFS. So if you put in information into IFS, that will give you the box matrix and other such types of tools based on the information that you've put in. And again, this is another example of having a performance and a potential matrix. You can see, again, very good representation here. All right. Calendars. So one thing I like about IFS is the calendars. I think it is very sleek. I think it looks very good. I also think it's very clear, and it tells me exactly what is what. For example, I can see my statuses, I can see it's color coded, I can view my time card, I can view my employee calendar, I can view my entire year or my entire month. And that is really useful because if you want to put in things like absences, if you want to go and record paternity leaves and things, you can go and do that within the calendars, and it's so easy to do it. All right, and this is just showing you an example of the different devices that you can use. It's not restricted again to one device. We've also got something called cards in IFS. Now, cards allow you to view information not just within a restricted table, or view it within a sort of list format, but it also looks at information and it provides you with a summary of the information. So it provides you with a summary of, this is the key information I need, and you can go and click on that key information, you can favorite that key information, and if you want, you can interact with it. So if it's highlighted in blue, you can go straight to that person, or you can go straight to that record. And what I really like about this is that if you've got an email next to it, you can actually click on it and it will open up an email box, and you can send an email straight to the person. So you have the option of viewing cards as well. If you don't want to see all that heavy information behind, you can view it as cards instead. All right. We've also got something called a tree diagram. I think this is a very useful function, especially for things like organization charts, to look at hierarchies. This is a really, really useful function. It allows you to export it as well as view it outside IFS if you wanted to do that, and it allows you to dive into it as well if you wanted to. If you can see on the screen, I've got like a home screen there and a little dive into button over there, and that takes you deeper into the diagram if you need to go. Again, just showing you an example of the organization structure over here. You can see that it goes into the different, you can kind of structure it the way you want to, again, using the sidebar over here if you wanted to do that. All right, now I'm just going to cover timeline, and we're almost towards the end. So quickly covering timeline, you've got the option of having timelines within IFS where you can have your employee record when you first started, things like your training sessions, things like whether you're going and doing an evaluation, or if you've got any competencies, any HR related things, and you've got the option of seeing your entire timeline for every single employee. And that is very, very useful, because that means you can see your whole journey from start to end. It allows you to interact with the timeline as well, which means you can go, you can see as you add things within IFS, as you add your skills, as you add your locations, your qualifications, you'll be able to see when you did that, at what point, which stage did you do that in, and you can again access that on any device. And then we come to stack charts, which is absolutely wonderful representation again of information where you can see things quite clearly and concisely. It allows you to view information in a different way, again with the option to export it if you need to, with the option to interact with it if you need to. All right, I think that covers some of the additional features that I've had, and I think I'm going to pass it back to Jo so she can summarize everything I've said in a couple of sentences.
Lovely, thank you very much, that's great, thank you, Michelle. Okay, so just to summarise all that, I think you can see that in comparison to the EE user interface within IFS, this is completely different. I suppose the one thing to mention is that those of you who are hooked on right clicking might have a little bit of an issue. Just takes a week or two just to adapt from a right click to a different approach. But you can see here that we've got a number of new features, such as the workflow assistance, the bookmarks, the different displays of information, a lot of business analytics and lobbies, which does mean for a lot of users that if you're currently paying for a third-party BI tool, you can almost replace that now. In fact, a lot of our customers do. Document management, because of its full integration with Microsoft Office. And obviously the general user interface in terms of the multiple devices that you can see it on, and the designer. Obviously the themes is an added extra as well, just to sort of adapt. We find that people in different sort of workshop software environments sometimes like the different screens, as well as the people that are in front of a screen on a sort of an 8 hours a day basis, which find that they need to sort of adapt to a slightly different environment. So I hope that's given you a pretty good overview of the Arena interface. Conscious that I think virtually everybody on the call is finding it sort of new. Either you're considering it or you've just started to use it. So it does take a little while to adapt to it, but it is hugely useful, and a lot of the feedback that we're getting from clients that have come from older versions of IFS onto the newer versions of Arena, they're finding it very positive. Is that right, Misha? Is that the feedback you're getting?
Yes, I am. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, good. Okay. So just going to go to questions now. And again, it's not too late. If anybody wants to type in a question, please do so. I do have a couple already, Mish. The first one being, is it possible to go between the old EE interface and Arena? I'm assuming this is coming from somebody who's already using the product and just wanted to know, can you alternate?
I see. Well, at the moment, we can alternate between EE and Arena. However, IFS in the future are going to be heading in a direction towards Arena only, and EE will be phased out. So Arena will be the main platform that we're going to be using.
Okay, that's great, thank you. I think also another question, the main benefit of Arena, I suppose this is why, what was the main purpose of going into Arena and producing a new user interface? I do have an answer for that, but I think you'll probably say it better. Mish.
That's fine. Well, personally, Joe, I think that IFS's move to Arena was for a number of different reasons. Firstly, Arena is so sleek, it's so neat, it's so easy to use. But the main reason is the user friendliness. The fact that you can go in, the fact that you can interact with Arena, you can kind of be friends with Arena. I think that's the main thing IFS was aiming for, to make sure that users enjoy that experience, to make sure that there's efficiency, there's accessibility, there's workflows, and you can still use all that amazing business tools and those business related functions with having a good user experience, having a good experience with Arena. But if you want to add anything, please, by all means, No,
that's fine. I think you summed up everything. I think it is mainly that additional ability for the user to define the screens the way they want to use them, isn't it? It gives them that much improved experience.
Yeah, especially those workflows, Joe. I think those are really nice.
Absolutely, yes, they go down very well, don't they? Okay, one question I've got here from James. He's asking us, which release of IFS are you actually using?
Which release of IFS am I using? I believe I'm using the release number 8, I think it was.
In apps 10?
Yeah, so apps 10, I think it's update 8, I think I'm using.
Okay.
For this one. We haven't received update 9 as yet, but yes, it is on its way, I think.
Yeah, no problem. I hope that's okay. That gives you the answer, James. Okay, another question from Jezek. Does Arena require a different user access structure? I think is that if we're talking permissions and what have you, then I think it's very similar to EE, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it is. It's going to be pretty much the same as EE in terms of the permissions, the securities, the roles, and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, hopefully that answers the question, Jezek. If there's anything else, then please do let me know, either now or afterwards. Okay, I think that's all the questions for now. I'll just wait another minute just in case another one comes popping in. No, I think we're probably done. So I hope you all found that useful. Do appreciate the time that you've all taken to watch this, particularly as I know we've got quite a few people that have joined us from the US, so probably in different time zones and the crack of dawn in the morning. So thank you very much for attending. We really appreciate that. There will be another webinar in our series coming soon. In fact, I believe it's actually on, yes, in February, a couple of weeks' time. So please look out on our website. We will be posting new advice on LinkedIn and other forums, so we'll let you know. And obviously, if you're a current client, then by all means speak to your account manager. We'll happily tell you what's coming next and also what's to follow. There will be a series of webinars now going through into the summer, so lots of topics to come. Okay, thank you ever so much for your attendance. Thank you, Mish. Appreciate your input and your time for this. We will see you all very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.